I still had one heel on when I started tossing everything out. That's the clearest part in my memory. The carpet felt bare under my right foot. My left foot was still crammed in some cheap black pump I'd ordered online half a year prior using a fake name, delivered to an Amazon locker 20 minutes away like I was dealing drugs instead of shopping for shoes. Mascara was smeared around one eye, foundation was smudged on my jaw, and I had a trash bag spread open on the bed while I crammed a wig, a couple of dresses, a makeup bag, a bra, 3 pairs of underwear, and a cardigan into it with both hands, as if trying to put out a fire. I was panting. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The same thought kept looping in my head. I'm done. I'm done. I'm really done this time. Not the kind of done I declared before. Not the weak kind. Not the kind that only lasted until the next rough patch at work or another lonely evening at home after my wife had dozed off early with the TV still flickering. I meant it that night. I really did. The feeling of disgust was enough to mean it. I ripped the heel off, threw it in the bag, and just stood there in the middle of the bedroom wearing nothing but nude pantyhose and an undershirt, with makeup remover stinging the skin under my eyes. There was a damp towel on the bathroom floor. My heart was hammering so hard it seemed to shrink the room. I looked at the bag, at everything crammed in there like evidence, and thought maybe this was the only way to kill it. Maybe if I eliminated it all, I could finally go back to being a normal guy. At least, that's what I told myself. The truth was, by the time I reached that point, I was so exhausted I would have latched onto anything that sounded like relief. I was 42, married, living in a cookie-cutter subdivision outside Columbus, where all the houses seemed to be built from the same 3 ideas. Beige siding, black shutters, a square of grass that needed mowing every 5 days in the summer, whether you felt like it or not. I worked in purchasing for a regional restaurant supply outfit. Nothing glamorous, nothing awful. Just the kind of job that slowly made you feel like your whole existence was a spreadsheet with heartburn. My days were all numbers, calls, delays, and minor annoyances. Vendors being politely dishonest. Managers demanding the impossible. People sending emails labeled urgent because they couldn't plan ahead. I sat under fluorescent lights all day and drove home in traffic with my jaw so tight I'd get a headache behind my eyes. At home, things weren't bad enough to be considered broken. That almost made it worse. My wife Lisa wasn't unkind. She wasn't cold like in some melodramatic movie. We'd simply settled into a rut. Same routines, same conversations, bills, groceries. Her asking if I'd remembered to call the plumber. Me asking what she wanted for dinner. We still watched shows together sometimes. Still shared a bed. Still texted about mundane things during the day. But there was this distance that had grown in the house without either of us acknowledging it. Like dust accumulating on furniture you use every day and somehow still don't notice until the sunlight catches it. I don't put all the blame on her. I was distant too. More than she realized. There are only so many years a man can spend suppressing himself before it starts to manifest in unexpected ways. I was always tense. Always playing some version of myself I thought made sense. Husband. Employee. Neighbor. Son. The reliable guy. The quiet one. The one who held it together. And then at some point, years earlier, I discovered this tiny private corner of my life where I didn't have to. It didn't start in some dramatic way that people might imagine. There wasn't this big, life-altering moment where I suddenly uncovered some hidden truth accompanied by thunder and violins. It was more subtle than that. More pathetic, probably. Lisa was visiting her sister one Saturday afternoon, and I was home alone cleaning out the bedroom closet when I found this old camisole she'd shoved in the back of a shelf, soft and pale gray and almost weightless in my hands. I remember rubbing the strap between my fingers first. That detail stuck with me. It felt gentle. Such a simple word, but it resonated more than I expected. Gentle. Everything in my life felt hard then. Hard chairs, hard schedules, hard expectations, hard little conversations where nobody said what they really meant. And there I was, standing in a half-clean closet, holding something soft enough to make my chest ache. I tried it on because I was alone, because the thought popped into my head, and because sometimes that's all it takes. I expected to feel ridiculous, dirty, Stupid. Maybe I did, a little. But stronger than any of that was this strange, quiet feeling I couldn't explain. Not excitement, exactly. Relief, maybe. Like some part of me that had been bracing for impact constantly had suddenly relaxed. That was the dangerous part. Not because it wrecked my life overnight. It didn't. It just gave me a place to escape to in my own mind. And once I knew that place existed, I kept finding my way back. At first, it was small. A pair of panties bought with socks and undershirts so the cashier wouldn't think twice. Then a nightgown ordered online and delivered to a locker across town. Then cheap makeup I barely knew how to use. Then a wig that looked absurd in the package and somehow less absurd once it was on my head. And I stopped staring at it like it had accused me of something. I wasn't good at any of it. I cut myself the first few times I shaved more than my face. My foundation never matched my skin tone. I poked myself in the eye trying to apply mascara. I walked in heels like my ankles were held together with string. But none of that really mattered. It wasn't about looking perfect. God knows I didn't. It was all about those peaceful moments when the house was empty and I could lock the bedroom door, carefully arrange everything on the bed, and let myself become more vulnerable than I ever allowed myself to be elsewhere. Softer in my body, softer in my mind. For a little while, I could finally unclench, but every single time it ended the same way. The crash, the shame, the way I'd snap back to reality, like a rubber band. I'd stand in front of the mirror wearing a dress or a cardigan or one of the old denim skirts I'd started hiding in a storage bin under the camping gear in the garage. And for a few minutes, I'd almost feel at peace. Then some switch would flip. I'd suddenly see my broad shoulders as wrong, the shadow of my stubble, my age, my wedding ring still on my finger half the time because I was too anxious to take it off. And all that peace would curdle into something else entirely. What the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? How many grown men live like this? How long before you screw everything up? That was the cycle. I understand it now. Back then, it just felt like I was losing the same battle over and over again. Stress would build. I'd start thinking about dressing. I'd tell myself not to. Then, one night, the urge for relief would win. I'd shave, dress, breathe easy for an hour or two, then come crashing down into guilt so hard it felt like waking up submerged in cold water. I'd stuff everything back into its hiding places, promise myself it was the last time, act normal for a week, maybe 2. Then life would tighten up again, and I'd go back. I hated that cycle almost as much as I hated myself or being trapped in it. The worst part wasn't even the secrecy, it was how cruel I became afterward. How brutal. I'd talk to myself in ways I would never speak to another person. Words like disgusting, weak, broken, pathetic. I used them all. Then I'd get up the next morning, pour coffee, answer emails, ask Lisa if she wanted me to pick up takeout, and pretend I wasn't carrying around a private hangover made entirely of shame. That week had been rough even before that night. End of quarter chaos at work. 2 people called out sick. A delayed shipment that turned into a whole day of managers breathing down my neck as if I'd personally rerouted the truck into a lake. By Thursday, I was sleeping poorly, grinding my teeth, and snapping over insignificant things. Lisa and I had a minor argument that morning before work, not even worth remembering now. Something about money, I think. Or maybe the water bill. That's how worn out we were. We'd gone from fighting about feelings to fighting about utilities. She was supposed to be out Friday evening meeting a friend from her old office for dinner and drinks. She mentioned it twice during the week. I remembered because the second she said it, something ugly and hopeful stirred within me simultaneously. An opportunity. I hate admitting that, even now. The way a part of me could hear, my wife will be gone for a few hours and immediately start plotting. Friday dragged on. I got home before her, microwaved leftovers, and moved around the kitchen in that numb, automatic way you do when you've had too much weak and not enough self-respect. She came home, changed, touched up her lipstick in the hallway mirror, and stood in the doorway asking if I wanted anything while she was out. I said no. She said she probably wouldn't be late. I said okay. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her bag, and left. The garage door rattled shut beneath the house. Then it was quiet. I waited anyway. That was part of the ritual too. Never diving right into it. I'd learned to sit with the silence first. Listen to the house settle. Listen for the possibility that she'd forgotten her phone charger or her wallet and might come right back in. I stood at the kitchen sink pretending to rinse a plate I'd already rinsed twice. Checked the front window without making it obvious. Finally saw her taillights disappear at the end of the street. Only then did my body start to loosen. I went upstairs and closed the bedroom door. Locked it. Then I checked it again, even though I knew I'd locked it. The tote was where I'd left it in the garage, buried behind an old folding chair and a box of Christmas lights. I carried it up in 2 trips so I wouldn't look ridiculous if, for some impossible reason, someone saw me through a window. The makeup pouch. The wig box. The small plastic shopping bag that held my clothes, folded tighter than they needed to be, as if neatness could make any of this less strange. I showered first. Hot water. Razor. Slow, careful strokes up my chest, stomach, thighs, the little sting of nicks around my knees, because I was rushing and trying not to rush at the same time. I got out, toweled off, rubbed lotion into my skin, and stood there in the bathroom with steam fading off the mirror while my heart did that familiar nervous pounding that was part dread and part hunger for calm. On the bed, I laid everything out. Black panties, nude bra with the cheap insert I'd bought separately because I still wasn't ready to spend real money on the kind that fit better. A soft burgundy sweater dress that hit just above the knee. Pantyhose. The black pumps. A shoulder-length brown wig with side bangs that looked ordinary enough to pass in low light and forgiving angles. Nothing flashy. I never wanted flashy. I wanted normal. I wanted to disappear into normal. Getting dressed always took longer than I thought it would, mostly because I kept stopping to listen. Pantyhose first, tugged carefully over shaved legs, then panties. Then the bra, fumbling with the hooks the first time and having to twist it around. The slight weight of the insert settling against my chest, the dress sliding down over my body. That moment always got to me. Fabric moving over skin I'd just shaved. The softness of it. The quiet of it. It sometimes made my eyes sting, and I couldn't have fully explained why. Makeup at the bathroom counter under the 2 bright vanity lights. Primer. I blended the foundation lower than I usually did, all because I was obsessing over avoiding any harsh lines. Concealer went under my eyes, and I attempted some contouring even though I still hadn't quite mastered the technique. Mascara was applied with a death grip, my elbow glued to the counter to steady my shaky hand. I blotted my lip color twice. A full-on lipstick still felt like a bit much for me. Then came the wig. I fiddled with the cap, pulling it down just so. I smoothed the hair with both hands, watching as the person in the mirror started to sharpen into focus. It wasn't a fantasy, not exactly a woman, and definitely not perfect. Just a version of me that seemed quieter, gentler, less burdened by all the expectations I placed on myself. I slipped into the heels, taking a couple of tentative walks across the bedroom, a hand lightly brushing the dresser for balance. I almost laughed at myself. My ankles were still a weak spot, but I was definitely getting better at this. Finally, I stood in front of the full-length mirror by the closet and really took a look. The room was shadowy, lit only by the lamp on Lisa's nightstand. It had started raining while I was in the shower. A gentle patter against the gutters, making the whole house feel like a sanctuary. I saw the sweater dress, the smooth line of the wig against my cheek, the way the pantyhose gave my legs a sleekness they didn't usually have, and the slow release of tension in my shoulders. And for the first time in what felt like weeks, maybe even a month, I could actually take a full, deep breath. Not because I looked flawless. I definitely didn't. Not because everything suddenly clicked into place. It hadn't. But just because, for those few peaceful minutes, standing alone in that room, I didn't hate what I saw. And that feeling was always what tempted me to linger longer than I should. The rain always seemed to shrink the house somehow. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was because it drowned out the outside world. No lawnmowers, no kids down the street dribbling a basketball, no neighbor clanging his trash cans way too late on a Friday night. Just that soft, steady drumming on the gutters and windows, and me standing in front of the mirror, trying not to ruin the moment by overthinking it. I should have stopped right there. That's the part that still gets to me. Nothing had gone wrong yet. I could have taken everything off, packed it all away, and gone downstairs to zone out with some mindless action movie until Lisa got home. I could have chalked it up as another private indulgence I was both relieved by and ashamed of, just like always. But instead, I stayed. I sat on the edge of the bed for a minute, then got up again, pivoting to admire myself from the side, then fussing with the stray strand of the wig near my cheek, then drifting back to the mirror, chasing that feeling of calm, as if standing there long enough could somehow make it permanent. I even took out my phone. That wasn't something I did every time. Most nights I was too paranoid. But every now and then, when the house felt particularly secure, I'd snap a picture or two just to see myself from an outside perspective. The screen always stripped away the magic. Too harsh, too flat. I'd zero in on all the things I didn't like. My hands, my jaw, the way I still carried myself like a man trying not to. But that night, the first picture wasn't half bad. I looked tired, yeah, but also real. More vulnerable than usual. I took one more. And then I heard the garage door. The sound slammed into me like a physical blow, like missing a step on a dark staircase. For a split second, I just stood there, phone still clutched in my hand, every nerve ending going cold. The motor groaned under the house. The door slammed shut below, then silence, then footsteps. She was home. Early. I moved before I could even think. Phone tossed on the bed, wig off. No, wait, wrong. I dropped it back down, then snatched it up again, nearly fumbling it. My fingers had turned into clumsy sausages. I ripped the wig off and flung it onto the dresser. I grabbed a handful of makeup wipes and smeared foundation across my face instead of actually removing it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. Footsteps on the stairs. I kicked off the heels. One skittered under the bed. The other bounced off the nightstand. I bent to grab it, nearly lost my balance, then grabbed the hem of the dress and hauled it over my head so fast I thought I'd tear it. The bra snagged on one arm, sending me into a fresh wave of panic, hopping around like an idiot while trying to wrestle it loose. "Mark?" Her voice floating up from downstairs, closer than I wanted it to be. Casual, too casual. "Yeah?" I called back, my own voice sounding strange, strained, and high-pitched with panic. I coughed and tried again. "Yeah?" No response. I finally got the dress off, fumbled for my t-shirt on the chair, yanked it over my head, then froze, frantically scanning the room. The makeup pouch was still gaping open on the bathroom counter. The wig was lying in plain sight on the dresser. My freshly shaved legs were gleaming under the lamp like I'd slathered them in oil. I grabbed the wig and shoved it into the closet, jamming it behind a pile of jeans. Snagged the makeup bag and tossed it into the laundry basket, burying it under one of Lisa's sweaters. I barely had time to pull on a pair of gym shorts when the bedroom doorknob started to turn. Locked. A pause. Then, her knock. "Why is the door locked?" I stared at it, trying to suck air in through my nose, praying she wouldn't hear how violently I was shaking. "Getting changed." Another pause. "For what?" I spilled something? Even as the words left my lips, I knew they sounded ridiculous. She didn't respond immediately, and in that brief silence, I could feel the whole night teetering on the edge of disaster. Then she said, "Okay," in a flat tone that told me she didn't believe me for a second, but she wasn't in the mood to argue about it through a closed door. I unlocked it a few seconds later, cracking it open just enough to shield myself from view. She was standing there in her jacket, purse still slung over one shoulder, a few damp strands of hair clinging to her temples from the rain. Her lipstick was faded, less vibrant than before. She looked tired too, and annoyed. "Jenny's kid got sick," she said. "They canceled." I nodded a little too eagerly. "Oh." Her eyes flicked over me just once. Not like in a dramatic movie scene, but a quick, assessing glance that still felt like an interrogation. "You okay?" "Yeah? Why?" She just shrugged, a dismissive little gesture. "You look weird." The pressure of it almost made me laugh. I was changing, I repeated. I got sauce on my shirt. You changed into old gym shorts? I glanced down at myself as if surprised by my outfit. Yeah, just grab whatever was there. She didn't say anything, just stepped past me into the bathroom. I should have stopped her, said anything to distract her. Instead, I stood there, mouth dry as she flicked on the light. It took only a couple of seconds. Why is there makeup all over this towel? I followed her in, seeing it instantly. Beige streaks smeared across the white hand towel by the sink. A black smudge near the edge where my mascara had hit it. It looked so obvious now, insane that I hadn't noticed it before. My mind frantically threw up one useless lie after another. I don't know. Maybe from when you were getting ready. She turned, just looking at me. Not angry yet. Not even really hurt. Just alert. I didn't use that towel. I could practically smell my own panic then. Not literally, but close enough. The faint perfume I'd applied lingered in the steamy, soapy air, suddenly overpowering and sickening. Maybe it was old, I offered lamely. Mark. That was worse than yelling. On the floor by the vanity, near the cabinet, something small glinted. A single fake eyelash. I didn't know when it had fallen. I didn't even remember wearing them that night. I just remember the two of us spotting it at the same time. She bent down and picked it up between her fingers. There are moments when you feel your body trying to abandon you. This was one of them. Her face changed, subtly but enough. "Whose is this?" she asked, and I lied. I wish I could say I did something brave then, but I didn't. I said the weakest, ugliest thing I could have. I don't know. She looked from me to the lash and back again. We stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. Rain tapped on the window, the bathroom fan hummed, and my chest ached from holding myself so still. Finally, she placed the lash on the counter. "Okay," she said. That word again, flat, closed off. Then she walked out. No screaming, no scene. She just went downstairs, leaving me standing there in my bare feet, half my face still smeared, my pulse hammering in my throat. That was the worst part. If she'd exploded, I might have had something to react against. Instead, she gave me silence, suspicion, and one awful, unfinished question hanging over the house. I stayed upstairs for another 10 minutes pretending to clean up. Really, I was just trying to pull myself together. I scrubbed my face until the skin around my eyes burned. I stripped off the rest of the clothes, stuffed everything out of sight, and put on sweatpants and a hoodie, as if extra fabric could somehow make me less exposed. When I came downstairs, Lisa was on the couch, the television on with the volume low. She didn't look at me. I stood there like a kid waiting to be called into the principal's office. "You hungry?" I finally asked. "No." "Want me to order something?" "No." That was it, nothing more. I sat in the recliner across from her, watching the TV without actually seeing it. Some home renovation show. People smiling too brightly in a kitchen bigger than our first apartment. Every few minutes I could feel her not looking at me. And beneath all my fear, something even worse was beginning to spread. Not just fear of being caught. Not just fear of losing her. Something dirtier. Meaner. I hated what I'd become in that moment. Not for dressing up, not even for hiding it, but because, when the pressure hit, I'd lied like a coward, leaving her holding evidence of a life she didn't know I had. I went to bed before she did. Or at least, I went upstairs and sat in the dark bedroom until I heard her in the kitchen, checking the back door lock as she always did before bed. The house felt poisoned, every object in it seeming to know something. I opened the closet and took everything out. Not carefully this time, not lovingly, not the way I usually handled it. The wig, the dress, the heels from under the bed, the makeup bag from the laundry basket, the bra, the inserts, the tights, the cheap jewelry, the little bottle of remover, the phone charger I used when I stayed up too late with the door locked, all of it. At first, I made 2 piles without thinking, but that made me angry too, as if some part of me was still trying to salvage something. So I grabbed a black trash bag from under the sink and started shoving. That's when I was back to where this story really starts. One heel still on, face half scrubbed, breath coming too fast. I tossed in old photos too. A couple of printed drugstore pictures I should have destroyed months ago, receipts from online orders, a note with a name I'd once written out just to see how it felt. That part made my stomach twist. I crushed it in my fist before throwing it in. Then I deleted the pictures off my phone, even the blurred ones, even the ones nobody would have recognized as me. I told myself all the usual things as I did it. Grow up, stop this, be a husband, be normal, quit making yourself sick. By the end, the bag was full, and my room looked like I'd survived some private disaster. I took it out to the garage and shoved it deep into the big trash bin under broken down cardboard and yard waste bags. Then I stood there in the dark garage, the smell of rainwater coming in under the door, and felt absolutely nothing. No relief, no victory, not even grief yet, just emptiness. The next morning was Saturday. Gray light, coffee, Lisa in the kitchen in leggings and one of my old college shirts, scrolling on her phone while the coffee maker sputtered. We moved around each other carefully, polite, functional. That unnerved me more than any yelling could have. I kept waiting for her to ask, to push the issue, to say, "I know something's up. Tell me what it is." But she didn't. She talked about groceries, her mother's doctor's appointment next week, whether we needed more paper towels. And I answered like a ghost, barely there. All day, I felt wrong in my own skin. Not exactly guilty, but beyond it. MD. Like I'd surgically removed the one part of my life that gave me a sense of relief and replaced it with a stern talking to. By late afternoon, I was being cruel to myself in a new way, sharper, more hopeless. That's when it finally clicked. Throwing it away hadn't fixed the underlying panic. It hadn't made me honest or normal. It hadn't even made me feel clean. All it had done was leave me alone with the nastiest voice in my head, the one that always showed up afterward, calling me disgusting and weak and broken until I started to believe it. Standing at the kitchen sink, staring out at the rain-soaked backyard, I realized something so simple it made me feel stupid. The dressing wasn't the thing breaking me. The shame was. Not the clothes, the wig, or even the secrecy, though that was certainly doing its share of damage. It was the way I kept craving comfort and then punishing myself for it. The way I twisted every moment of ease into evidence against myself. The way I kept trying to bury a part of me and then acting surprised when it clawed its way back to the surface, gasping for air. That night, after Lisa went upstairs with a headache, barely brushing my shoulder as she passed, I opened the garage door and stood in front of the trash bin for what felt like forever. I could hear the neighbor's dog barking a couple of houses away, smell the damp mulch, and feel the sheer absurdity of the situation. Then I lifted the lid. The black bag was right there under the cardboard, hidden as if I were ashamed of my own garbage. I pulled it out and set it on the concrete. I didn't bring it inside right away. I just stood there with one hand on the knot, breathing. It wasn't triumph, freedom, or some grand, dramatic acceptance where everything suddenly made sense. It was smaller than that and harder. It was just this. I was tired of treating myself like something filthy. I untied the bag. At the top was the burgundy dress, wrinkled, one strap twisted. Beneath it, the wig, crushed and crooked. A heel pressed against the makeup pouch. I looked at it all and felt grief, yes. Shame, too. And definitely fear. But not disgust. Not this time. I put the bag in the trunk of my car instead of carrying it back inside. That was all I could manage. One honest step, not a complete life plan. I still didn't know what I was going to say to Lisa when I'd say it, or how much damage I'd already done by lying. I didn't know what any of this meant in the long run. I didn't know if I was brave enough to stop hiding or just brave enough to stop hating myself for 5 minutes at a time. But that night, standing alone in the garage with the rain still dripping off the roof's edge, I told myself something I should have said years ago. I don't know what this makes me. I don't know what happens next, but I'm done calling myself disgusting. And for the first time since the garage door had rattled open the night before, I felt like I could breathe again.